I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Welcome to my deep dive of Mars transiting Pisces. This began on May the 13th at 4:17 p.m. Universal Central Time and goes on for 6.5 long weeks through to the 27th of June. I'm going to explore what Mars is about, also the energy of Pisces, also broken down into its 3 decans, which last of 10 degrees. I'm going to show you the day chart for the event and the key influences which will feed into the next 6.5 weeks, and crucially, how Mars will interact with other planets during that period of time and the impacts it will have on us all. Finally, I'm going to give you your zodiac sign forecast. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Also, please feel free to interact with me on this video. Any comments, I answer them all. You can also chat to me directly on Twitter at Horoscope Ace, or if you'd like to join my wife and I for our new Daily Astrology and Spirituality Show, which we've been doing for just under a month, please see the link just beneath this video. You can get your free daily horoscope. I give the most dominant astrological influence for that day, and Elisa gives her slice of spiritual philosophy or uses the tarot, oracle or angel cards, and it's proving really popular. It would be great to have you along. But here we are, Mars. What is Mars? Mars governs 2 zodiac signs. The first is Aries, the second is Scorpio. Mars represents instant gratification. It's an impatient influence. It wants us to crack on with things. It wants us to raise our profile. It's about our ego. But it's also about desire, and it helps us to get things off the ground so we can initiate. We can be enterprising with its energy. We can be risk-taking. We can be warrior-like. And also, certainly through the auspices of Scorpio, this is very much about how we transform ourselves in very deep relationships around sex, the more masculine side of relating. It can also be about money. It can be about property. It can be about investments. So Mars is quite complex, but it's definitely about desire. Now, what's the sign of Pisces about? Now, one of the things I try to do is to show the breadth that exists in each zodiac sign. So, for example, with Pisces, at its very highest nature, it's hugely compassionate, very artistic, creative, can be very supportive, absolutely sacrificing to the nth degree. But at the other end of the spectrum, Pisces energy, I feel, can also be quite cold, detached. Imagine the trout at the bottom of the river. And we can have 2 trouts if we want to think of the glyph of Pisces. And the angler's there trying to get that trout. And the trout's looking at the angler with one eye. And it's very, very aware of the game that's going on. And it stays very detached, cool and deep, just out of reach. So it can be mysterious, mystical, but also very deep lying. People who are Pisces often, or have a lot of Pisces energy in their charts, particularly people with Mars in Pisces, have a kind of mystical aura which can draw people to them. But also, this can be someone who works behind the scenes, so in an institution like a hospital or a prison, a big governmental department. It could be someone who works in a dangerous job linked to the sea, no doubt about that. So whether it would be trawlerman, a deep sea diver, anyone involved in exploration, getting out hidden minerals, that kind of stuff would very likely have Mars in Pisces in their chart. So that gives you a flavour of what Mars is about, but through the sign of Pisces it goes through 3 decans. The first 10 degrees is governed by Jupiter, which is expansive. This is the traditional ruler of Pisces. Neptune came along later. The second 10 degrees is governed by the moon. So this is where we get the potential for being very sacrificing, but also victimhood. And then the third transit, the third 10 degrees, is actually governed by Mars. So this transit through Mars from the 13th of June to the 27th of June is going to be very exciting, because Mars is in its home decan, and it's also going to be forging some fabulous links as well. So what does this day chart tell us in terms of the background, the backdrop of energy that we're going to see over the next 6.5 weeks? Well, I think relationships are going to be much to the fore. You see, Mars here in this day chart is in the 5th house. That's very Leonian, that's very much the sun. That's to do with enjoying ourselves, but it's also to do with children, lovers, and creativity. So Mars there in its first decan of Jupiter, which is expansive, and Mars, as this event began, is also in the first dward of Pisces, which gives it a double Piscean energy. So I think over the next 6.5 weeks, the desire to be more creative is definitely going to be strong, but also the desire to enjoy life. Now, the ascendant is in Libra, which is about people and relating, but it's conjunct Juno, which has been retrograde for some time. I think it began at 23 degrees Libra, and you can see that Juno is in opposition with Black Moon Lilith in the 7th house of this chart. Black Moon Lilith is about those hidden desires. And you know, hidden desires with Mars going through Pisces is a kind of metaphor for the sign. It can be to do with secret alliances, assignation, affairs. It can be. So I think with Juno in opposition to Black Moon Lilith, and also the midpoint between the Sun in Taurus, the Moon in Aquarius, at 2 degrees Aries in the 6th house, that's the health, but it's very close to that ascendant, to that descendant, sorry. So relationship's going to be a lot to do with this. So it can be a relationship to do with health or to do with other people. Now there are 2 complex squares going on. Venus continues its retrograde and squares with Neptune. So deceit is definitely possible around relationships. That lasts through to the 28th of May. And I think it is going to be tricky for people who are trying to unpick the true meaning of certain alliances. And then there are going to be the people who are so needing of having physical contact, touch, intimacy, sex. That's going to be a feature. There will be rule breakers. And part of the reason for that is Mercury square to Mars. Mars is about that impulse, desire. Mercury is about talk and thought. It's in its home zone of Gemini, but in the 9th house, this is the rule of law. And also, the North Node, the societal direction of travel, there's a lot of people who will follow the rules, but because Jupiter's forging a quincunx with that societal direction of travel, other people's unique philosophies will be shown as well. So there'll be some people who think, well, this isn't for me. I'm doing this. I'm taking this amount of care, and that therefore gives me the right to do something else. There are going to be clashes about points of view coming from that Jupiterian quincunx to the North Node, but also that clash between Mercury and Mars. That can create tension and stress. Also, some gossip can come to the surface, particularly, don't be surprised if there are some big dramas that occur in week 2 of June, and it could be linked to a very public figure, and it's likely to be to do with inappropriate behaviour, not necessarily how they're trying to get around the lockdown and COVID-19. It could be something much more powerful than that that's set to come out with Mars's transit, I feel. So we've also got a lovely angle between the Sun and Pluto. So transformation is possible about how we live, how we interact with people, how we adapt. Some people will be winners through COVID-19 in the sense of how they adapt, because they're learning a lot about themselves and making it work for them. There'll be those that are finding it very difficult, and those that are finding it, sort of middling, go between the two. But I don't say any of this lightly. There are people risking their lives to protect us all. And I'd like to give a shout out actually to supermarket workers who seem to get no personal protective equipment and yet are exposed probably to the most amount of people in terms of volume. they don't seem to get celebrated as much as they should. Also carers, certainly in the UK, people who go around people's homes or in residential homes have got the least amount of protection because of a total lack of planning. So I think there's going to be a lot of kickback against that kind of lack of planning that there's been. But generally, because the sun's moving on the 20th into Mercury, and then we have the Mercury new moon on the 22nd, which links very positively to Saturn in a very anchoring way, things are going to speed up. There is going to be more lifting of restrictions. We are going to see more freedom. But I think it's also very important to understand that freedom comes with responsibility. And I think there is signs that people are really seriously bending the rules to suit themselves. So, what is the first thing that we need to explore? Well, I think it's really that in the last 10 days of May, there's a terrific link between Mars and Uranus. So that's very much about living in the moment. Of course, because Mars can be about instant gratification and impulse, linking to Uranus, which is all about trying something new, but they're actually linking very positively. So I think we can see some kind of movement going on in terms of a greater flexibility or innovation. And certainly on the 23rd of May, when Mars reaches Ceres, the asteroid of nurture, which in myth was the god of agriculture, I think because Pisces is very much to do with fishing, water, seas, lakes, I think there's going to be a real loosening up around those areas, and some good news may come in around food distribution if there have been some difficulties. But we also have to remember that some people are relying exclusively on food banks, and whilst for some of us it may be a challenge to get a slot for a home delivery, other people it may be a challenge to have any food in the house at all. So Mars moving over Ceres is an impulse for us all when we do visit the store to leave some cans or packets either in the food bank box or in the pet shelter, the local cat rescue or dog rescue box. That kind of stuff is lovely, and Mars conjunct Ceres would be a fine time to do it. But we do have a square that's shaping up between the Sun in Gemini and Mars in Pisces, which begins on the 27th of May and is going to last through to the 18th of June. And this is what I mean about revelations. There's going to be something that comes out into the open that someone powerful really wishes didn't happen. And part of the reason for this is that from the second week of June, Mars is going to go alongside Neptune. Some kind of sexual impropriety could be linked to this, because both then link in a square to the Sun through to the 18th. This is confusion central, but as I say, expect some really quite hot secrets to spill out into the open. In our own personal situation, there could be a conversation where inadvertently we do blurt something out. We don't necessarily mean to be hurtful, but we could say something, but we must make sure that we're being truthful, because Mars conjunct Neptune is the trickster influence bar none. In terms of sexual impropriety, I'm just letting you know this, that I love the Stones, but Bill Wyman apparently was the greatest Lothero of the Rolling Stones. He's no longer a member. Bill's a Scorpio, but Bill in his natal chart has Neptune conjunct Mars. Also, Bill Clinton, with the Monica Lewinsky scandal and others, has got Mars conjunct Neptune in his natal chart. So the potential to kind of get caught up in things, which is there in this day chart with the square between Neptune and Venus, and the opposition between Juno and Black Moon Lilith, is accentuated hugely by that situation. Now we also have a wonderful angle forging in week 3 between Mars, Jupiter and Pluto. And because by that time Mars is going through its third decan, I think we're going to see after that there's going to be a really sloppy period in the 2nd of June where I think there's going to be a lot of distortion. if there has been mismanagement of COVID-19, which I think we'd all broadly agree there has been in many countries, not all, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, Germany, Denmark. There's loads of countries that have managed this really very well and intelligently, and there's been other countries that it's been disastrous. And I can only speak for Britain because as a British citizen I feel I have a right to comment. I'd be much more discreet about what I think about America. Of course I understand about the need for financial stimulation and getting back to some level of normality. But I think Mars conjunct Neptune in Pisces does really risk a huge spike in COVID-19 in week 2 of June. That's a direct prediction. Unfortunately, I have to say that. But then I do think that Mars then moving into that glorious link with Jupiter and Pluto, even though they're in a retrograde, does bring a sense of urgency and a sense of greater vision. And also, I think that because Jupiter is about the rule of law, Pluto is about change, and Mars in Pisces can be about the sort of more sensory side of our desires. Certainly in terms of the more spiritual dimension, perhaps we're going to see a more unified approach amongst people in general, hopefully in that last phase of June before Mars makes its entry on the 28th of June into its home zone of Aries, and of course it reaches the Aries point, which is a critical position. So I think the 28th of June is going to be a very important day. There's also a sextile between Mars and Saturn in Aquarius on that couple of days, so that could be a critical point for things shaping up in a more positive way. But gossip, scandal, revelations, mistakes, a spike in the virus's spread are all possible in week 2. Innovation is possible in the last 10 days of May, and I do feel that we are going to see some rule breaking going on, and we're going to see more contentious discussions on forums like YouTube and Facebook. So what about your particular zodiac sign? Well, let's start off with Aries. Of course, this is your ruling planet, Aries. Mars is very much in its 12th house for you. This can see your emotions being very up and down. You can have a real range of emotions over the next 6 weeks. At times you could feel some real sweet music, at other times very desolate. If there's something you've been working towards in a big way over the last couple of years and it hasn't come to pass, it could be around a relationship, it could be around a career possibility, and perhaps COVID has taken it away in some way or another, there could be a sense of desolation, and you may go through, certainly in week 2 of June, a sense of real loss. But keep focusing on what you're working on in the present, which is that Gemini energy. That's making you think more keenly, life is speeding up, move forwards. That's not to say that you shouldn't still embrace that pain and upset. If there are some hurts that need to be ventilated, do let them out. If you need to talk to someone and release old pain or hurts, then do that. That's very healthy. But I think generally the speeding up of events from the 20th of May is asking you to really embrace the here and now much more significantly. Now for you, Taurus, with the Sun forging an amazing link to Pluto as this event occurs, that does point to you getting back into that potential for change, which really the planets have been flagging so strongly for you over the last couple of years, with Uranus coming into your sign on a couple of occasions, 5.5 months in 2018, then from March 2019, of course all this year. Uranus is very much about change, and of course Saturn and Pluto for the last couple of years, with Saturn anyway, Jupiter since Pluto since 2008, been asking you to be more daring, and then COVID's come along and kind of put a kibosh if you wanted to try out different places to live and so forth. But that doesn't mean to say that you're not expanding your world. And I think Mars being in your 11th house of friendship and the long-term future means that's where you're really going to be gripped by the immediacy that Mars is pushing you to embrace. So lots of conversations with friends, there can be collaboration, you are thinking more about the future, and even if you can't physically get out quite as much as you would like, I think you're growing at quite a pace inside of yourself. You can also find yourself much more focused on enjoying the good things in life, which you have a particular appreciation for. But if you do, don't beat yourself up about it. Now Gemini, with the sun firing into your sign from the 20th, and then that new moon on the 22nd, you're just waiting really for the sun to come out of your 12th house, and then it's going to be go, go, go. However, Mars has moved into your sector of assertiveness and of extra self-confidence. It's also about work, it's also about your desire to gain greater recognition for whatever you do around your interface with the world at large. Now, I certainly feel that there are some opportunities for you, but you've got to make sure that your plan works in week 2 of June. Otherwise, you may spend a whole load of energy trying to invest in something that just isn't viable. Neptune can distort reality. Just bear that in mind. Cancer, this is a fascinating transit for you because Mars moving through your 9th solar house ordinarily would see you very action orientated, want to travel, especially to the seaside, I feel. And it's possible that you may be able to do that where you are. If not, this can be a time when you want to crack on and try to visualize how things are going to change for you. But actually, your chart points towards a lot of reflection. So you have a dichotomy. There's the desire to break out, but events are pinning you down, and you could see yourself going through past events, sorting things out, thinking about a past relationship in a big way, coming to some kind of sense of completion potentially. But you have got more complex energies coming once Mercury moves into your sign, because it goes into an extended retrograde. So it's not going to be until early August before you're really building up more momentum in terms of this expansion. So to prevent yourself getting too frustrated, I feel that you really need to embrace the more spiritual dimension. And if you can do that, this can be a time of wonderful enlightenment. It's not to say you're not enlightened now, you can just gain more. Now Leo, with the sun being right at the top of your chart, the 10th house, it's about work, it's about your role in life. So Mars moving for your 8th house is about the loot. And remember, Mars governs Scorpio, which is about money, investments, but also sex and desire. What's going on in your love life at the moment? There's all this flirty stuff going on in Gemini, and but we have this location of Neptune in your 8th house. Is there some confusion going on there for you? Mars is going to see you determined to kind of get what you need, but I certainly feel when it merges with Neptune, you could be drawn into an alliance which won't necessarily be good for you. If there is someone that you just find absolutely irresistible, at least be honest with yourself about what the rules and regulations are, what the dynamics are, because otherwise this could get into a mighty mess. But if you want to be more proactive on the practical side of life, the next 6.5 weeks can be very good for you to get your business matters in better shape, particularly if COVID has had an impact on your income and dried it up. You may have to start thinking much more enterprisingly about how you can be more flexible going forwards. Now Virgo, Mars moving into your opposite sign is fascinating because you've had Neptune there since 2012, which has either delighted you or completely baffled you. It's depended on the particular phase you've gone through. You may have met the love of your life, you may have seen something completely dissolve away that was very important to you. Mars moving here gives you the opportunity to have firmer boundaries, but expect those to come under pressure in week 2 of June. But in week 3 you could be really rocking. There could be someone who really makes your pulse race. It's truly exciting. Now Libra, with all that energy in Gemini at the moment, to be followed by the sun moving on the 20th and the new moon on the 22nd, switching things out, being more expansive, really appeals to you. But what I feel your chart is about at the moment is trying to balance being a good egg and doing your best for others, but also protecting your need to be a free spirit. That's really under pressure at the moment for you, I feel. and that is perhaps potentially draining. Your physical vitality may reach a real low in week 2 of June. If you're still working, particularly in a caring role, try and take a week off if you can, especially if you've been flat out with COVID. Your immune system could be a little bit lower during that time, and the time of just getting some vitamin D, getting out in the sun if possible, or really looking at your diet and nutrition in a more careful way will be a smart thing to do. Now, Scorpio, does it get any better than your ruler making its way through the 5th house of romance and desire? It's wonderful, this. And of course, once it is immediately linking with Uranus in your sector of relationships, this could mean a razzle-dazzle connection before the end of May. Very exciting for you. But it does go into that conjunction with Neptune, and that could feed into something that's already playing out in your situation. Are you in a bit of a muddle about a secret alliance, Scorpio? If you are, you need to make some hard and fast decisions. With the Sun forging a positive angle to Pluto, your modern ruler, on this day chart, then perhaps something does need to evolve. Perhaps you do need to bring something to an end, or you need to embrace something new and go with it. But I think Uranus is the key. It's suggesting that if you're not getting all your needs met, either in terms of excitement, or you're in a time which is far too mundane and predictable, the yearning to shake things up can be very profound. So this can be a very sexy, saucy, evocative period for you. And week 3 of June, if you're single particularly, could see you connect with someone you really fall for in a big way. Now, Sagittarius. Mars moving through your 4th solar house can actually be quite tricky. One of the things about Sagittarius energy, and I have Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius, is that it's a kind of move to the next exciting new venture energy, is Sagittarius. Navel gazing is not really your thing. You're much more interested in the big picture, huge philosophies. You love debate. You're often herring off to somewhere different and new. You need to be expanding your physical boundaries very often. And if you're more of a home lover, you've got more water in your chart with other influences, then it's your mind, your spirituality, you're always trying to expand. But do you stop and think about your emotions enough? The next 6 weeks give you an opportunity to think about, are there past hurts and frustrations around your emotional life that you've not cleared up? If that is the case, then use this opportunity to release things. I think this can be particularly so about relationships, but you can't kind of boss it. You have to submit to it. Otherwise, if you try to boss it, the right angle that we've got here between Mars and also Mercury, and then the Sun's clash from the 27th through to the 18th of June with Mars, is going to create a lot of nervous energy for you, a lot of tension around your home, family or emotional life if you're still trying to retain some kind of prominence. Sometimes we have to show our vulnerability, and then we can really let go of the pain and suffering that we've had. Now, Capricorn, Mars has moved into your 3rd house of everyday communications. Could see you hop on a bike. It could see you do more vigorous walking, more interaction with your neighbourhood. I think maybe there's someone in your neighbourhood that you might take under your wing around about the 23rd, or there could be a key moment of connection with someone that you really admire more locally. Also, technology can capture your imagination a lot more. But if you're someone who has got something you want to say, whether it's creative, practical, a point of view, philosophical, I feel the second week of June can see you really finding your moment to say it. Just fact check whatever you say, because Neptune distorts, and it's in a square with the Sun along with Mars. Now, Aquarius, you can see from this day chart that the Moon and Saturn are in Aquarius in the home zone, the 4th house. But this gathering of energy in the 5th house for you of Gemini is lovely, and it's going to be enhanced from the 20th. The pace of life is going to pick up. You're going to feel more outgoing. If your mood has been a little bit limited of late, especially if you're an early born Aquarius, then this is a chance to to get moving. But your financial income is obviously, it's a hot topic for everyone, but I feel that Mars gives you a much greater sense of urgency about it, particularly in the last phase of May. If you've enjoyed working from home, if that's what you've had to do, it could be that you're completely content to continue with that. But don't be too laissez-faire with your resources in the week 2 of June. You could be very generous to someone you care for, or you could splash out on something that you feel you really deserve, and then get a huge case of buyer's remorse. Pisces. Well, Mars moving into your sign is absolutely delightful. It's been making its way for the last 6 weeks, in the sign of Aquarius, and that's been creating these very up and down emotions, sometimes tearful, sometimes very angry, sometimes wanting to be very detached from people, withdrawn, other times joining in more. Because all this Gemini energy is very much to do with home, family, emotion, if you have had a degree of isolation that's been difficult to bear, I think Mars moving into your sign is going to be good. You're going to move into the present, you're going to feel a greater sense of urgency, your physical vitality can increase, and the only catch is again around that second week of June, which is truly tricky. But in the third week of June, I think you're really starting to come into your own. You're going to be much more outgoing, and as the sun makes its way into Cancer, I feel that you're going to feel much more rejuvenated. The pace of life will pick up, and it's going to be an opportunity to engage with other people a lot more. But generally, Mars moving into your sign is a time to initiate, get new streams of energies, interests and activities cooking in a way which can be very pleasing. It's been such an honour to be with you. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, please check out my testimonials below. But I'm wishing you all the best for this Mars transit. It is complex, but it also offers opportunities. But for now, stay safe, good luck, and goodbye.